Yes, the God of the impossible. I've been thinking a lot about the God of the impossible this week, and you'll hear why in a few. But I'm believing, and as a pastor, I'm supposed to say it's easy for me to believe in the God of the impossible, but I'm going to admit that sometimes I forget that I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Sometimes it's really easy to think, maybe not that thing. But I'm telling you, we can do all things through Christ who gives us strength. I want to tell us a couple stories today, but the first one that I hadn't written into my sermon until this morning, and it hit me, and I realized I can't not tell this story. I want to tell a story about a young lady who was in my youth group when I was a youth pastor way back in the day, when I was like early 20s. And I was pastor of an Assembly of God church, which might shock some of you as a youth pastor there. And I had this gal. I was pregnant with my first son, and I struck it good with this young lady who was in my youth group. And we would play basketball together. It was hilarious because I was pregnant with my first son, and it worked to my advantage because all I had to do was look a little tired. She'd be like, "Are you okay?" And then I'd run past her and shoot her. But we became very close. She was somebody that I thought of as a daughter figure, and I think she thought of me kind of as a parental figure in her life. And so later on in life, when I came out of the closet as a lesbian, it was funny because it was this gal who came to me and said, "Yeah, the whole youth group was taking bets on when that would happen." Okay, whatever. But we were able to have a relationship after that. She actually came out later as well, I think before I did. We were able to have a relationship, and then she met Christine and was really close with Christine as well, and it was just this wonderful thing. And she was going to come to my bachelorette party and didn't make it, and I didn't hear from her for a while after that. I didn't know what happened to her. And I would say a couple months after that, Christine and I were flipping through the TV, and I saw her on the news, and there was a mugshot. And we were like, what in the world? And so we saw that she was in jail in Sacramento County. And it turns out that while she was at a friend's house, I guess an acquaintance of her friend had come into the house and kind of become hostile towards her and was approaching her in a hostile manner when she pulled out a knife to defend herself, and she stabbed him. And then she and her friends, and I think her brother even was there, was saying, "Wait, stop, we gotta call an ambulance. This is not good." And he said, all this stuff, and he got in the car, drove off, and then died on the side of the road, pulled off, wrecked his car and died. And so she was in jail for involuntary manslaughter. And so, no, it was voluntary manslaughter. And so we would go to her court cases, and we were there present with her as much as we could. And then we shortly realized, so her attorney said you would do best to settle, because we might be able to get you off. It was self-defense, but we might not, because you had a knife. And I think just for your sake, let's just settle and you can be done with it. And so she ended up settling out of court for time served. So all the time that she served in the county jail was the time that she would serve, which sounds like a great idea, right? Sounds good. But then we realized there was nobody there that was going to be picking her up. And so Christine and I went and we picked her up from the jail. And we took her to our house, and we gave her for a time shelter in our house and kind of tried to help her get a second start. But what I didn't realize is when something like that happens to you, you get out of jail. You don't just get out of jail, you get out of jail in a heap load of debt, because you have to pay for every night you were there. and you have to pay for your registration in the car, which is lapsed, and she had fines to pay because her driver's license had been suspended, and then she had to find a job, and try finding a job when you have to put felon on your resume. It's difficult. She was looking for roommates or a house to rent, and try renting a house and finding roommates when you have to put felon on your house and roommates, and so she was in this world of hurt. And it felt, and I'm not going to lie, as I tried to encourage her time and time again, it felt like an impossible mountain to climb. And I did not know how she was going to do it. I'll come back to that. 3 months ago, our leadership team sat around looking for a building. We had grown out of the conference room completely. I don't know if in the last couple of weeks you were there, but it was hard to find a seat, and it was certainly hard to find room. And so Karen and I went around Folsom, and we realized that the cheapest properties we could find, the smallest properties, the cheapest one we could find was the size of just our sanctuary alone was twice as much as we could put forth in a budget. There was no way. There was no way. And then, out of the blue, one of the realtors called us back and said, I have a piece of property I want you to look at. I think it might work for what you have. You get what you pay for. It's going to be a lot of work. And so we toured this building that we are sitting in now. We're like, oh, I think we could do this. I totally think we could do this. And then we had a contractor come in, and we were saying, here's the things that we needed to do. And the best price we got from a contractor pushed us right back over that ledge of impossibility. 3 months ago, the leadership team sat around a table and said, there's no way we can do this. We cannot responsibly do this. And we left the leadership meeting saying there was no way we could do it. And we had closed the book on this building. And I think about this scripture, and I don't know what Peter knew. They walk up to him and they say, please come without delay. They don't say that they told him anything else. They don't say that they said, hey, Lydia is dead. We need your help to raise her. No, they just said, Peter, we need your help. Come without delay. And I'm wondering if he thought he was doing like pastoral counseling or something like that. Or maybe somebody needed some fishing advice. Come without delay, come with us. And I think about him, okay, I don't know what you need. And I can only imagine, yeah, come up these stairs here. And then walk in and boom, there's Lydia, dead, on the bed. I can't imagine what Peter thought at that moment. Like, you called me here. You want me to do what? She's dead. Can you imagine? I mean, I think sometimes we hear these stories from the Bible, we think, yeah, of course he did that. But I put myself in Peter's shoes and I'll be like, oh, this is a big one. Wow, how do I get out of this? And I see that Peter said, hey, everybody go out. Everybody go outside the room. And I'm wondering if he did that because he just didn't, he was like, I don't know what to do here. I need some space. Called them all out. And he knelt beside this body to do the impossible. I don't know what Peter knew when he was headed that direction. I have no idea what he knew. But I do know who he knew. He knew the God of the impossible. I believe that he took Jesus' words serious that were recorded in John. Where did I write that? John chapter, 14, 12 through 14. Whoever believes in me will do the works that I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these. I don't know what he knew when he went up to that room, but I know that he knew that when Jesus left, Jesus said, there's more to be done, and you will have the power to do that. I believe he believed what Timothy believed when he wrote in 1:12, for I know whom I have believed in, and I am persuaded that God is able to keep that which I've committed unto God until that day. And so Peter, after getting everybody else out of the room, closed the door, and I could just see it, and maybe it wasn't like this at all, but this is how I see it, knelt down beside the bed and said, okay, God, you got to do this one, because it is beyond me. And he reached out and he took her hand, and she stood up. See, this is still Easter season, and I know some people think it's ridiculous, but I believe in a God of resurrection. I believe that a God who sees things dead and says, I will breathe life into that. And Peter took Lydia's hands and lifted her up, and she breathed. And then he said, he took her to the window so that everybody can see. Can you imagine what an incredible celebration that was? See, I don't even know what the people want. As a chaplain, I am called to the bedside of recently deceased all the time. And never once have they asked me to raise the person from the dead. They just usually ask for a blessing. I'm wondering if they were saying, hey, Peter, can you give a blessing? And Peter said, stand up. And they were like, whoa. Can you imagine that kind of miracle? I can. Because I'm going to tell you something. A month after we had said, no, there's no way, we had decided to give it another shot. We said, you know what? I think that God provided something. And if we just say no, that we're doing something that doesn't believe that God can do it. And all 5 of us said, I agree. That right there is a miracle, right? All 5 of us said, that's right. We need to do something. We had another contractor back and said, what if we only did this? And he cut it in 1/3 of the price. And we said, we can do that. We could do that. But that's not the God of the impossible. Here's the God of the impossible. On Monday, I received a call from a guy in the community saying, I want to do something. I see what you're doing and I believe in it. I want to do something. And so if you read the newsletter, you know the first part of that. The first part of that is, I want to give the church dollar-to-dollar matching for the building fund. Up to $10,000. Whatever you can raise, I will match it. Up to $10,000. And we need to get this construction done. But I want to do it right. And so he said, I have an artistic consultant that I want to bring in. And we're going to get local artists to hear the vision and the mission of this church. And we're going to make the sanctuary what it needs to be about the mission and vision. And then we're going to get an article in the Folsom Telegraph that says, hey, look what these local artists are doing. And hey, look at what this church is doing. And he said, and then I have a lot of contacts in the community. So once that $20,000 is done, we're going to raise the rest of the money. Not to get the construction done, but to make this place sacred. That's the God of the impossible. Amen. That 3 months ago we said, we can't. And right now I'm standing here telling you we are doing so much more than we dreamed possible. Because we can do all things through Christ. Amen. Who gives us strength. Because in the season of Easter, I believe in resurrection. And our dear Christine and I call our goddaughter. She called us up about a month, not even a month ago. Well, wait, no, let me back up more. About a year ago, a little less than a year ago, she called me. And she said, hey, Mom, wondering if you'd be willing to go to Hawaii with me. You and Christine. I'm like, well, that sounds terrible. She said, because I'm getting married. And I'd like you to marry us. That's huge. And we met her soon-to-be wife, and we love her dearly. About 3 weeks ago. I'm bad at timing. Call me on it. About 3 weeks ago, she called up. And she said, I want you to know that we just put an offer on a house. And 2 weeks ago, she called me up and said, or called us up and said, guess what? We got a house. Because the God of the impossible doesn't care if you're a felon. The God of the impossible doesn't care if your credit was once nothing. The God of the impossible doesn't care if you've experienced addiction or rejection or brokenness or harm. The God of the impossible doesn't care if you were ever at a place to say, I can't go on from here. Because the God of the impossible is the God of resurrection. Now it's funny, I wasn't going to share the story of our dear goddaughter without getting her permission. Because I don't feel like I should do that, share stories without permission. So this morning when this popped into my head, I text her. And I said, hey, I want to talk about your testimony. Would you be okay with that? And I saw later that she had texted, of course I'm okay with that. And then she called and said, I can't keep this secret anymore. Guess where I am? And I said, where? And she said, right around the corner. Because her fiance said, I believe we need to be there. Something's going to happen. And I looked at my text and Kristen said, of course you can. I already knew you were going to ask me that. Because the God of the impossible is not just the God of the impossible. The God of the impossible is active and living and in our midst and wanting to do something. Can I tell you that the most exciting thing about this building to me was the fact that there was a shower. The Don and I went and fed the fellas a couple weeks ago. And out of that I made a connection telling somebody, yeah, we have a shower. And I didn't think it was even heard. At the beginning of the week, somebody called and said, hey, I've got a homeless gal here who's going to see her kids, and she's trying not to lose her kids permanently. Can she take a shower? And we got to do that. Because the God of the impossible makes all things possible. If you are in a place in your life where you think there is no hope, I got good news for you. There is so much more than hope. There is resurrection. There is new life. There is something that you don't even know that can exist right around your corner. Because I fully believe that God's plans, God knows the plans that God has for you. Plans to prosper you. Plans to give you something better. Plans to make you brand new. In all your frustration, know this. The God of the impossible has you right there. Right there. In God's embrace. In God's love. And it's not an accident that Kristen and Christy are here today. And it's not an accident that you are here today. Each and every one of you. Because I want to tell you, the God of the impossible is the God who is living in our midst, doing things beyond what we can imagine. Let's just believe in that resurrection and experience that new life in Christ's holy name.